Hello, everybody. I'm really happy to be here with you. The title of presentation is The Association of Adenomyosis with Endometriosis based on pelvic magnetic resonance imaging. Deep endometriosis and uterine adenomyosis are two common gynecological disorders affecting approximately 200 million women worldwide. They have similar histopathological patterns and share the similar symptoms. Endometriosis is a chronic inflammatory disease that is defined by the presence of endometrial glands and stroma outside the uterine cavity. Pelvic magnetic resonance imaging is the best non-invasive diagnostic method for evaluating the endometriosis. It is usually performed as a supplementary study in the pre-surgical planning and is highly accurate in assessing endometriosis, especially deep infiltrative endometriosis. Uterine adenomyosis is the presence of ectopic endometrial tissue within the myometrium, sometimes considered a spectrum of endometriosis. Adenomyosis is often related to infertility and some adverse pregnancy outcomes. Magnetic resonance imaging has a high diagnostic accuracy due to its excellent tissue differentiation in the detection of endometriosis. The purpose of our study was to evaluate the association of uterine adenomyosis with endometriosis based on the findings in pelvic magnetic resonance imaging. Before explaining our study, I want to say about the classification of adenomyosis. There are multiple classification systems for adenomyosis according to the histopathologic and radiologic features. On imaging, three main forms can be distinguished. Diffuse adenomyosis, which is most common, focal adenomyosis or adenomyoma, foam, abbreviated as foam, cystic adenomyosis or adenomatous cyst, which is the rarest form. The traditional classification of adenomyosis, according to Chopron et al. In 2000, defined uterine adenomyosis as focal adenomyosis, which is in outer myometrium, when adenomyotic foci are located in the uterus separated from an intact junctional zone with the preserved healthy muscular structures between the junctional zone and the adenomyotic lesions. In the form of diffuse adenomyosis, two of these criteria must be present: a maximum junctional thickness of more than or equal to 12 millimeter and a ratio between maximum junctional zone thickness and myometrial thickness is more than 40%. MRI in adenomyosis shows useful diagnosing features. The most easily recognized feature is the thickening of the junctional zone equal or more than 12 millimeter, either diffusely or focally. Normal junctional zone thickness is up to 5 millimeter. On T1 sequences, foci of high T1 signal indicating menstrual hemorrhage into the ectopic endometrial tissues. And on T2 sequences, we can see a region of endometriosis as an ill-defined ovoid or diffuse region of thickening, often with small high T2 signal regions representing small areas of cystic change. After gadolinium contrast enhancement of the ectopic endometrial glands can be seen, but the IV contrast administration is not necessary for diagnosis of endometriosis. Most of the time, we use IV contrast for detail and better diagnosis of endometrioma, especially in complicated endometrioma or the suspected endometrioma when we are suspected to malignant changes in an endometrioma. We use IV contrast for better diagnosis. In these slides, you can see the focal form of the adenomyosis. You can see a mass-like lesion in the posterior myometrium, which is separated from the endometrial line by a healthy muscular myometrium. And this is the focal form of adenomyosis, abbreviatedly named as foam. Can you see the marker in the slide?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you. This is the focal form of adenomyosis, which is involved the posterior myometrium and cause a little pressure effect on the rectal wall. In these slides, you can see the diffuse form of adenomyosis, which is more prominent in the posterior myometrium in this patient. The posterior myometrium and the junctional zone is widened more than 12 millimeter. And in the axial plane, you can see the widening of the junctional zone. In this case, we have both form of the adenomyosis, diffuse form and the focal form, both with each other. And also the patient have two intramural leiomyoma in the anterior myometrium. The cystic form of adenomyosis, as I mentioned earlier, is the rare form of adenomyosis. It can usually be seen as a cystic mass in the posterior, within the myometrium. In this case, it is seen in the posterior cervical lip as a cystic mass in the T2 sequences. And in axial plane, you can see this cyst in this part. But in T1 sequences, it shows high signal, and just like an endometrioma, the patient has the endometrioma and the hematosalpinx in the right adnexa also had a cystic adenomyosis in the posterior lip of cervix. This is another case about in sagittal plane of MRI. You can see the diffuse adenomyosis in posterior and anterior myometrium as widening of junctional zone, and also an intramural leiomyoma in the posterior myometrium, which is a common association of leiomyoma with adenomyosis. According to the new classification of adenomyosis, another form of adenomyosis is defined as extrinsic adenomyosis. We will talk about this form of adenomyosis later in this lecture. Kobayashi proposed this classification in 2022. And the intrinsic adenomyosis, focal and cystic adenomyoma, we talked about them, and we saw the MRI features. But extrinsic adenomyosis is the form of adenomyosis that is located in the posterior surface of the posterior anterior serosal surface of the uterus, and with extension to the healthy myometrium and near the endometrial line. However, the current classification of adenomyosis is not yet fully agreed upon internationally. In our study, we did an analytical descriptive study on 42 women of reproductive age with diagnosis of endometriosis who were referred to the gynecology clinics of Islamic Azad University of Mashhad. And all of the patients were candidates for open surgery or laparoscopy. The variable of the study included the age of onset of menstruation and its duration, the pattern of menstrual cycle, gravidity, history of infertility, history of previous pelvic surgery, and body mass index. Data were collected by face-to-face interviews with each patient. All patients underwent pelvic MRI for mapping of pelvic endometriosis before surgery. The presence of concurrent adenomyosis was investigated at the same time. MRI was performed with a Siemens 1.5 Tesla machine with and without IV contrast. Out of the studied patients, 17 individuals, 40.5% showed adenomyosis concomitant with endometriosis on MRI, of which 3 of 17 patients had focal adenomyosis, which was about 7%. and the rest had diffuse adenomyosis. All study variables were compared between two groups with and without adenomyosis. The mean age of women in this study was 32 with standard deviation of 6.6 years. The minimum age was 20 years and the maximum was 48 years. Patients were categorized by age into two groups, under 30 years and 30 years or older. 15 people was in the first group and 27 people in the second group. The mean age of menarche was about 13 years. The minimum age of menarche was 10 years and the maximum was 18 years. Regarding menstrual duration, the shortest one was 2 days and the longest was 10 days, with a mean of 6.8 days with standard deviation about 2 days. Regarding the length of the menstrual cycle, patients were categorized into three groups: less than 21 days, 21 to 35 days, and more than 35 days. The mean menstrual cycle was about 27 days. Pregnancy history was negative in 28 individuals, about 66%, and positive in 14%, which 13 having a history of one pregnancy, 16 with two pregnancies, and 4% with 3 times of pregnancies. History of infertility was positive in 59.5% people, 25 people. 14 individuals, 33%, reported a history of pelvic surgery for endometriosis. The mean body mass index of the women was about 23.5 with a standard deviation of 5.5 kilogram per meter square. Patients were categorized by BMI into three groups: underweight with BMI less than 18.5, healthy weight with BMI 18.5 to 24.9, and overweight with BMI equal or more than 25. Comparison of means shows, according to a student Mann-Whitney test, apart from BMI, there is no significant difference in other studied variables between the two groups, with and without adenomyosis. Just BMI shows a significant difference between these two groups, and the overweight patients show more relation between endometriosis and adenomyosis. They show more rate of adenomyosis concomitant with endometriosis. In a logistic regression model for association of adenomyosis with endometriosis, there is no significant correlation between none of the variables in adenomyosis associated with endometriosis. None of our variables, our studied variables, show significant relationship and significant correlation with in this association. Out of 42 patients studied, 17 individuals showed adenomyosis, 40.5%, of which 3, about 7%, had focal adenomyosis, and the rest had diffuse adenomyosis. All cases of diffuse adenomyosis were more pronounced in the posterior myometrium compared to the anterior myometrium. After surgery, according to the American Society for Reproductive Medicine classification, all patients had moderate and severe endometriosis, stage 3 and 4. Since all of these patients were surgical candidates and MRI was performed for preoperative mapping, this result was expected. Out of 17 patients who showed adenomyosis concurrent with endometriosis on MRI, 10 individuals, 58.8%, exhibited external adenomyosis in the posterior wall of the uterine body, which I talked about in the previous slides. In all of these cases, MRI revealed the obliteration of posterior cul-de-sac due to deep endometriosis. This finding may support the hypothesis of the study by Done J. et al. In 2019, after studying 100 women with deep pelvic endometriosis, they strongly proposed this hypothesis. What if deep endometriotic nodules and uterine adenomyosis were actually two forms of the same disease? As you can see in this patient, we have extrinsic adenomyosis in the posterior serosal surface of the uterus and deep infiltrative nodules of endometriosis in the posterior cul-de-sac associated with deep infiltrative endometriosis of the rectal wall. This is another patient of our study. You can see extrinsic adenomyosis, this calcimiometrium. This is according to the new classification of adenomyosis. We can name it as extrinsic adenomyosis. And this is associated with deep infiltrative nodules in the posterior cul-de-sac and deep endometriosis of the rectal wall. Done J. et al. Suggested reconsidering the pathogenesis of deep nodules, which might not be the result of deep infiltrative endometriosis, but rather the consequence of adenomyosis. In the next studies, they stated the possibility that these two entities are actually differential phenotypes of the same disease. It seems that this topic could provide a suitable basis for further studies on the pathogenesis of these two conditions. My lecture is finished at this time. At the end of my lecture, I like to introduce you an artistic heritage of my country, which named the Orosi Persian windows. As you can see here, it traced to the ancient Persia, and it was used for centuries in Middle East and Asia, in luxurious palaces and homes as a symbol of wealth. I hope my lecture was useful for you, and thank you for your attention.